Greetings, I'm David, and this is Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse. So, you probably don't know whether you're new to the channel or, just haven't really checked around that much, but we actually did do Castlevania 1 and 2 for this channel. Castlevania 1 was actually, I think, our second Let's Play back when Luke and I did these games. During the 15th century Europe, there lived a person named Dracula. He practiced sorcery in order to create a bad world filled with evil. He began taking over the continent of Europe, changing countries from good to bad. The good people of Europe tried to fight off Dracula, but no one was able to survive. Finally, the Belmont family was summoned to battle Dracula's vile forces. The Belmont family has a long history of fighting evil. The townspeople became afraid of the Belmonts' superhuman power and asked them to leave the country. Fortunately, the people found a mighty Belmont called Trevor. So, yeah, that story definitely sounds like it was written by a 5-year-old or something, or just really bad translation. The curse of Dracula has begun. The fate of Europe lies with Trevor. Not Simon, Trevor, of Netflix fame. So, yeah, Castlevania, the Netflix series, at least the first 2 seasons of it, is heavily inspired off of this game, with obvious, abridges. This is a very, if you want to look at it, this is a very abridged version of that story. So we start off with Trevor Belmont, actually an ancestor of Simon. I forget how far back it is. Timelines in this series are kind of weird, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple of alternate universes as well thrown into the mix. So yeah, we did Castlevania 1 and 2, Simon's Quest, for this channel. This is actually sort of marking our the 3rd year of the channel with this series, and I think that's an appropriate way to mark it. I suppose a more appropriate way is for me to finally get around to beating Super Mario Bros. 2, but I don't like that game as much. I mean, this game is ball-bustingly difficult, but I still enjoy parts of it. I will get into sort of the difficulty as we go along, but I'll say this for now, where Castlevania 1 was a fun and difficult challenge, Castlevania 3, to a certain extent, is still that, but it's definitely a lot more challenging. Now, the way that I'm playing this today is I'm actually doing this post, just because of a similar reason as to why I did Tomb Raider post, is because though I have a relatively good understanding of the game, it can just get unfunnily frustrating, if that makes sense. And I don't really want that coming out in the commentary, because there's definitely a surplus of moments where I was using strong language against the game, especially against the stairs. And if anyone, I'm sure anyone who's played this game understands what I'm talking about. If the greatest enemy in Castlevania 1 was actually, maybe the bosses. Like, the last 3 bosses were could be pretty challenging. And the greatest enemy in Castlevania 2 was the water. Quite frankly, that was probably the hardest enemy in the game, was the water. Or the crypticness of the game itself. The greatest enemy in Castlevania 3 is the stairs. There are so many stairs in this game. It's kind of unbelievable. Now, yeah, like compared to Castlevania 1 and 2, where they were a lot more horizontal, especially Castlevania 2. Castlevania 2 is definitely far more horizontal because of the way the game works. Castlevania 3 is very vertical. There are a lot of stairs in this game, and it can be a bit much. Especially if you ever played an old school Castlevania game, stairs are really not your friend, because it really ruins your mobility. You can't, unless you have a certain sub-weapon that can surround you, I guess. Because there is one good weapon that you can have on the stairs, basically. The only problem is trying to activate any sub-weapon on the stairs is a bit of a chore, because they don't always like the work. Alright, so we could either head towards the Mad Forest, or we could head towards the Clock Tower. Now, you don't have to go to the Clock Tower, it's optional. There is an optional character that you can actually get in the Clock Tower. Now, if you've watched the Castlevania Netflix series, you probably don't know who this character is. And that's because they didn't really appear, like, not in this form, I guess. I think in the 4th season, they actually did add 2 new characters that I think combined kind of make this one. There was, I want to say her name was Greta, but I could be wrong on that. Started with a G, and she was from the town of Dynasty, I think, which is that's the main, like, the main Easter egg to Grant, who is the new character that we're going to be picking up. Now, in the previous 2 games, all you played as were the Belmont, Simon, in those games. But Castlevania 3 switches some things up. It actually introduces new characters new playable characters. There are 3 of them in the game. Grant Dynasty, I think is the phonetic way of saying it. I could be pronouncing it incorrectly, but Sypha Belnates and Alucard, or Adrian Fahrenheit Tepesh, I want to say is his, at least most of his full name. I know Fahrenheit's in there. Now, in this playthrough, we are just going to be getting 2 of them. We're not going to be getting 1 of them, because you can't actually get all 3 in the same playthrough. Now, the way that I'm playing this, I can't remember if I mentioned it, but I'm actually playing the Classic Collection on Steam. And I think it's a alright collection. If you enjoy the classic games, Classicvania, then this is definitely something that you should consider picking up, especially since the physical games themselves are going to cost you a bit at this point. And that's me falling through, falling down, since for whatever reason that's now a bottomless pit. I don't know where the rest of the level went, but so let's see here. So again, clock tower, completely optional. You don't have to come here, but if you want Grant, this is where you have to go. This is the only time where you can skip a level, essentially. You don't have to actually do this if you don't want. Which is kind of odd because the rest of the other two characters, you have to go through the level to get, and it actually does, you know, matter for your progress through the game. Now, this game I don't have nearly as much experience or practice with as I do the other two. And kind of for good reason, because this is a really tough game, especially in the later half. Yeah. And I will be cutting. I do use save states, but I try not to abuse them too much because that kind of defeats the purpose. But definitely in a few spots, especially like before bosses, I tend to just use a save state so I don't have to fight through the entire level, or if I found like a good item that I really don't want to lose for a boss, I might keep it. But yeah, unless you're like a diehard fan who is talking about, you know, gotta play the game pure, can't use save states, I would say just use them for, especially for your first couple times. This, again, this is a very tough game. This often ranked towards the top of hardest NES games. Alongside with like Battletoads or something. Games like those. Alright. We are almost ready for Grant. If you can get the axe sub-weapon, ironically, the axe sub-weapon is one of the better sub-weapons in this game for bosses. I know, that's crazy, because I hated the axe in the first game. Because it just wasn't really as good as, like, the holy water. And, you know, the holy water isn't bad, but there's just so many enemies, like this guy, or so many bosses, again, I should preface that with bosses, that are more easily hit with the axe than with the holy water in this game. Just because a lot of them do tend to have certain weak spots that you can only hit with a weapon that has altitude. There's not a lot of ground-based bosses in this game that can easily get stunned with the holy water. Alright, so you can choose to leave them. You don't have to. If you leave Grant, what was the point of going through the clock tower? But naturally, as you walk away with Grant, the clock tower bridge is collapsing, so now we can't get to Castlevania. So we gotta go the long way. Alright, so let's show off Grant, since we're not going to be keeping him. Spoiler alert. Grant, in the English version, is not great. He's better in the Japanese version, for sure. The reason why is his default attack in... yeah. If you know, like, where to fall, getting down the clock tower can be a lot. Can be pretty fast. There is one notable thing about Grant's jump compared to the other three. He can actually change his jump in midair, which in the Japanese version, he's arguably the best character. Because of that reason, because he can climb on walls, as we saw there. Very few times that actually, comes up. Where you can... Oh yeah, I love this. Screw your level design. Yeah, just be careful where you fall, because it can still catch you off guard. Don't, like, fall down through there. That is considered a bottomless pit, even though you fall right back down here. But nope, you gotta take the stairs. Grant can climb on walls. In the Japanese version, he has a throwing dagger, which is essentially the same thing as Trevor's dagger, throwing dagger, except it doesn't cost hearts. So being able to hit anything from, far away, pretty handy. Handy to have. I think he might even be faster than Trevor or the other two. Sub-weapon wise, he pretty much has all the same things as Trevor. I think the only notable differences is he doesn't have access to as many things. Like, I don't think he has the holy water or the cross sub-weapons. Because he's not really a vampire hunter in the same sense that Trevor is. I think he was just kind of a guy. I think his title, according to the end screen, is he's an acrobat, which is kind of a weird thing, but okay. Okay. So now that we've got Grant, we have to go through the Mad Forest, which is also the name of the song playing right now. I will say, all the songs in Castlevania 3 are pretty good. If you're playing the Japanese version, though, it has even better music because the Japanese version of the Famicom had more audio channels than the American NES. So it just, had more instruments and just sounded better because of that. So, yeah, pretty much, if you're going to play this game, I'd recommend playing the Japanese version, which is also included on the Classic Collection. Fleamen do make their return, annoyingly, but usually you can take them out as easy as you could in Castlevania 1. These guys, unfortunately, do fire 3 fireballs instead of 2, like how they did in the original game. Annoyingly enough, and they do like to respawn. And I die. Okay. Anyways. I know this already, but I'm just making sure that you do. I do cut out a lot of death in this game, because especially later on, there were a lot of deaths. There were a lot of Trevors and Syphos that did not make it. Oops, spoiler alert, I'm going to be taking Sypha. Because Alucard kind of sucks in this game. And since we're not taking him, I can explain why. So, if you've seen Castlevania Symphony of the Night, or, you know, anything that has Alucard in it, like the Netflix show, thinking, well, Alucard's pretty awesome, why wouldn't you want to take him? That's because that Alucard and this Alucard are not really the same people. Alright, so thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next time for our Halloween series.